Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. All right, guys. So I want to go over a number of different things in this video. I kind of want to do a market outlook and just look back over the last 6 to 8 months, go over a bunch of different metrics, a bunch of charts, previous cycles, other market drivers, things of that nature in this video. Okay. Now I will go ahead and say at the beginning of this, most of the people, the analysts that I'm going to be showing have more of a bullish outlook than a bearish outlook at this point in time. However, there's plenty of analysts that are bearish on the market, and you're more than welcome to go check them out and to hear the case that they're making. And, you know, I 100% acknowledge, like I'll go over in this video, that, you know, there's a number of different ways this could play out. And there's no guarantee this is going to play out like previous cycles to begin with. Okay, so let's just recap some things here. So June lows, and this was after the Terra Luna collapse. Bitcoin dropped to 17.5, Ethereum dropped to 879. We had Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, Three Arrows Capital all go bankrupt, and then later FTX and Genesis went bankrupt. We had rate hikes during this entire time. This was one of the more aggressive, or the most aggressive rate hiking cycle we've seen from the Fed. And it would be safe to assume that the bulk of the rate hiking is probably behind us. We've also had war and potential escalation of war, which is still a possibility. The recession was already confirmed, and then they changed the definition of a recession. Ethereum, Polygon, Quant, Cosmos, XRP, and others did not go back and set new lows. Litecoin is another one of those. There was a big market rally after the Genesis bankruptcy. Binance survived a mini bank run and has still not gone back to new lows. And then we started hearing corporate partnerships come out with Binance as well, BMW being one example of that. And during this entire time, for the last 6 to 8 months, corporate adoption has just continued to accelerate. And there's a lot of announcements coming out from Ethereum, Polygon, Algorand. Stellar had a couple big ones. Some networks in some of the Polkadot parachains. Astro Network had a couple big announcements come out, and there's just a lot of other ones as well. I'm sure, you know, Ripple had a bunch of decent announcements that came out too. I just don't follow that as closely because it's not one of my positions, because it's not on Coinbase. So this is a really important chart that I want to go over, because this is talking about global liquidity. And this is something that's starting to get a lot more coverage with a lot of different market analysts. So this is showing where global liquidity took a big dive, and this is back towards the high of Bitcoin. And then the Fed starts hiking, causing global liquidity to decrease. However, in the last few months, global liquidity has started to go back up. And this is primarily one because of Japan, another one because of China. And I'll show the breakdown of that later in this video. But I do think it's important to know that there is a pretty close correlation between global liquidity and Bitcoin and financial markets in general. And I was looking more so at the dollar and the dollar index. And while, yes, that is a factor in global liquidity, there can be a scenario like we're in right now, where the Fed and the US dollar, the Fed is essentially tightening and removing liquidity or decreasing the amount of, you know, liquidity in financial markets, but maybe other central bankers are moving towards more of an easy money monetary policy. All right, so here's the breakdown, and I have another one that goes over this too. This is just looking at money supply M2, but it's looking at, you know, China versus the US, and you can see here in recent months where it's starting to go back up in China. This is I like this chart because this shows, you know, Bitcoin, this shows the S&P, and this also shows the DXY. I have no idea what's going to happen, guys. For all I know, the DXY could shoot back higher. And here's the thing, for those of you bears that are like shooting for, or, you know, you're like, the DXY is going to go to the moon. Cool. Then there's going to be a fucking liquidity crisis. There's going to be a fucking currency crisis, and currencies are going to start collapsing. So if fiat currency is a place that you want to be in the middle of a fiat currency crisis, knock yourself out. But I'm not suggesting that this means that the DXY is going to get rejected here. Very well could shoot back up, and this could fall back through. And there is an example in history that I want to show you where Bitcoin had kind of broken out of this range and then crashed back down, consolidated for a while, and then started to turn up. All we have is history to go off of, so that's what I'm going to be going over in this video. All right, so this is from Tech Dev, and I'm showing a number of different people here. I like Tech Dev. I like Tech Dev. I'll just put it that way. I mean, he shows a lot of different metrics and a lot of how the other market factors are driving certain things within asset prices. And he's looking at the Chinese 10-year yield here and how the Chinese 10-year yield has related to different impulses with Bitcoin. So I think this is pretty interesting too. And then showing the correlation here with the RSI. This was something that really opened my eye. This was a while ago when I saw this, but looking at the altcoin market, which, I mean, I knew the altcoin market was sitting right around that same level. And this is the altcoin market excluding Bitcoin. So I believe they call this total 2, and then total 3 would be excluding Ethereum. But, altcoin market was just kind of sitting right here, right around the same levels as it was at previous all-time highs. And then, he's showing Bitcoin dominance and where it was last time when the altcoin market turned up, showing the RSI, and then also showing the Chinese 10-year versus the DXY and the correlation between Bitcoin and crypto and the different impulses that have happened whenever the Chinese 10-year and the DXY were at these levels. This is also, I think, a pretty important chart to look at when you're looking at the altcoin market itself and this 8.5-year channel that we've been in. And this was from December 8th of 2022. And so this is when the altcoin market was right down here. We were at the bottom of that falling channel, that descending channel that the altcoin market was in. The altcoin market was in that descending channel, and then so was Ethereum. And then they both broke out of that, like a month and a half ago. So I just think this is worth paying attention to. This is what I want to kind of talk about. And this is from El Crypto Prof. So back, let's just focus on these 15, 18, and 2022. All right. Because in 15, we broke out of this resistance line. This was the line that we had been holding, right? We had been staying on this side of this resistance line. And then, and this is I believe these are the EMA ribbons. Then it breaks out, but crashes back down. And then we have a pop back up and we recover, and then we start going up. Now compare that to this particular cycle where, come down, we're holding this trend line, we have this crash down, make the push back up, breakout, retest, and then we off to the races, but the pandemic crash happens here. Now, if you do, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. This is what I wanted to see. This is what I wanted to show. So this is 2016, this is 2020, and this is where we are right now. And you can kind of see how the cycles play out. We have this long kind of falling wedge, this long downtrend that we're in, and then we kind of flatten out for a period of time. Flatten out right here in 2016, flatten out right here in 2020, 2019. And then we had this flattening out period right here, and there starts to be a uptrend that follows. So let me back up really quick. I just wanted to go from one chart to the other. All right, so this is what I was referring to, where we broke out, fall back down, then we kind of start to consolidate, and then we start to move up. But if you look at this general trend and this general trend, it's pretty much the same direction. It's just a matter of the path that it takes to get there. And, I think it's entirely possible that we just consolidate for a while. We might even drop back below this, but then I think that we'll probably find some type of support and then just start consolidating sideways for a while and then start to turn up at some point in time. That's just my general outlook based on history and based on what's happened in previous Bitcoin cycles. All right. All we have to go off of is history. There's no real data here to support. There is data to support something like this happening, like it did back in 2015. But the only data that we have available would be that a big wick down and then a recovery, consolidation, and then we start to grind up higher. That's the only data that we would have to be able to support a situation like that. There's no data to support this thing crashes down here and then just, dies off and goes off down in this direction or whatever it may be. So not to say that couldn't happen. This is all that we have to go off of. And then you have, this kind of breaks it down a little bit further. So you can see this is 2015 breakout, and then we kind of essentially a fake out, crash back down, but then we recovered and then we're up. But so just look at this trend here. And this was essentially a two-part bull run, right? Because the pandemic crash was kind of the middle point between, the different bull cycles. But if you look at this general trend, and this general trend is pretty much just straight up to the right after you break out of this resistance. This just shows that fractal again. Okay, this is important. So this shows that it's pretty much the Bank of Japan and the Bank of China that's been causing assets that's been moving to more easy money policy. While you have the ECB and the Fed doing more restrictive policy here. But I do think it's important to just acknowledge that we're probably towards the end of the hiking cycle. Not to say the Fed isn't going to continue to raise, because they'll probably make small incremental raises, but that we are towards the end of that. And this is the last thing that I wanted to go over here. So I thought this was interesting, and this is from AA or whatever, the American Association of Individual Investors, and their sentiment survey. So bullish is at a 7-week low right here. So if you look back over the last month or so, bullishness is at a 7-week low, and neutral is at an 11-month high right now, and bearishness is at a 6-week high. So given where we're at right now, this is a good sign. This is what you would want to see. You would want to see more and more and more people flipping bearish, flipping neutral, and starting to be less certain about what they're doing in financial markets. So that's all I have for this video. I just wanted to go over this. I strongly encourage, I do not portray myself as a market analyst, because I don't make decisions based on what I think is going to happen with the market. I just bet on the long-term success of the companies that I believe in. So, however, I do want to go over these things, especially the liquidity cycle and increasing liquidity. And I just want to talk about, previous cycles, what those have looked like, and if we are to assume that this cycle will be to some degree similar to other cycles, it's important to just look at, okay, this was 2016, this was 2020, and this is where we're at right now. And we have, even though we could fall back through, we have broken out of this downtrend line the same way we did here, the same way we did here, and then we had a fake out and a continuation, and we just pulled back up and started moving higher. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you everyone who's liked, share, and subscribed. Take care. Have a good day. I will see you in the next video.